Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, we're going to start working on the leg, and we're going to do what's called a multi-chain or multi-joint chain setup on the leg, and it's going to give the animator options of choosing FK or IK. Basically, and well, that's the basic idea. But any multi-joint chain setup, its whole purpose is to divide up the types of animation that the animator might want to use on that particular section of the body. In the legs, you know, if the feet are in contact with the ground, it's very handy to have IK or inverse kinematics attached to those joints in the legs. If the legs are not in contact with the ground, which will be the case with a bird quite often, then it would be very handy for the animator to be able to animate those in an FK or forward kinematics sort of manner. Now the difference is between IK and FK, inverse kinematics allows you to translate a control, which you will see here shortly, and you can translate that control around, and the leg is going to do the best it can to follow that. Is going to try to the IK formula is going to do the best it can to rotate the joints so that it ends up in the position the IK handle tells it to be. I know that's kind of a rough description, but that's kind of what's going on. Okay, or that is what's going on. Now, and then forward kinematics is what you're typically used to. You know, if a parent rotates, then the children are going to rotate. IK is useful in situations where, like, feet are touching the ground, or a hand is sitting on a desk, or somebody's, you know, maybe it's a pole vaulter, you know, and he's got the pole and he's vaulting, and you would want to have IK on the arms so that his hands can stay stuck to the pole. Anyway, so hopefully it'll become more self-evident as we set this up. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn off. I'm done with the mesh for now, so I'm going to turn off selecting the mesh up here in my status line so I can't accidentally select it. And I need to select the hip, and I'm going to duplicate this twice. So Control D 2 times, and I need to do a search and replace on this, on these duplicates. And before I do that, all I really need for the animator to have is, he doesn't need all these toes to be duplicated. So I'm going to delete all the toes out of the duplicates. It might be useful to keep the ball joints, so I'll keep those for now. Okay, and now I need to do is I can do a search and replace on this to rename them. Okay, so right now they're underscore joint. So I'm going to go to modify, search and replace, and I'm going to search for joint, and I'm going to search for more than that actually. I'm going to search for underscore L underscore JNT, and I'm going to replace it with IK, capital IK underscore L underscore joint, and I'm going to change it to selected so I don't change more than I intend to on accident later on, and I'll click apply. Okay, so now I need to rename this one and get rid of the 1. And now they say all, whatever they are, IK, the IK version. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with this set down here, except we're going to replace it with FK. And we'll click replace. And now they've all been renamed. And we can even unparent these joints from the hierarchy for now to make it more easily understood what's going on. So I'm going to select all those and drag them out of the hierarchy. And here they are now. Okay, so we can always just parent them back in. And you can always just leave them in the hierarchy too. There's no like benefit other than being able to see them easier to dragging them off or unparenting them. Okay, so now we've got a hip FK and IK that occupy the exact same space as the original hip. So what I like to do is differentiate the original joints, the ones that control the skin. I like to rename those. So I'm going to do another search and replace. I should have done this right from the beginning, but I'm going to search for J&T and replace it with bind. So I did that replace, and now I know which joints are going to be controlling the skin and which ones are not, just by the suffix bind. So the reason that's handy, let's say I had gone ahead and done this to the entire skeleton, I could just say select in my mail for a mail command, and then I could do quotes, and I could put in a wildcard, which is a star. So star underscore bind, double quote, semicolon to end the phrase, press enter, and it's going to select all those joints that have an underscore bind in their name. So that can be really handy if you're having to go back and edit your weights. Okay. Now, you could also, I mean, that's a worthwhile tool to make even. You know, I feel an extra credit assignment coming. So if you rename all your joints and you can show me that, and you have this mail command up in yourself, just that simple, then I will give you a point of extra credit because that's very nice to be able to do. Okay, so I just did the whole extra credit assignment for you. Yes. So moving on, we want these IK and FK version of these joints to control this joint chain, the bind joint chain. So all we have to do is we're going to select the hip IK, and then we'll shift select the hip FK, and then we'll shift select the hip. So it's driver, driver, driven. And we always want to make sure we select the IK first, then the FK, and then the driven. Now, it doesn't, to be more specific, it doesn't have to be the IK first, but you always want to do it in the same order because it will make things more simple. Okay, so if you started out by selecting IK first, then you should always select IK first. But if you started out selecting FK first, then you should always select the FK version first. Okay, so I've got those all selected. I'm going to hold down my space bar to go to my constraint menu, go to orient, the option box. I don't want to maintain offset. I want these to follow precisely. And I'm going to constrain all axes, and I'll click apply. Okay, so now I got this new constraint node down here. So I'm going to continue to do that. So knee IK, knee